Howdy y'all, TheJTJ here with Blender Video Editor tutorial number 7, audio. Okay, I have my default template set up right here, and I'm going to be working with some audio today. You can import MP3s, just straight audio tracks, songs, sound, anything like that, but a lot of times when you're doing video editing, it's already going to have an audio track on it. So I'm going to go ahead and pull in just an old clip that I have. The first thing I'm going to do is get rid of the video track, which is the bottom one. So you right click it, press delete, and it's gone. Next I'm going to right click the audio track, which is right here, and we'll go over here and look at some of the settings. Under edit strip, it has the name, being able to see it. You can lock it if you don't want that strip to ever be cut or edited or messed with. You can set the lock. The channel, if you press up or down, it'll switch the channel that it's actually in. The start frame and its length. So the edit strip is pretty standard for any strip you bring in. The sound is the one that you will mostly work with on this. The very first thing that I like to do is when my strip is selected, I'll come up here and check draw waveform. Drawing waveform, as you can see, draws the waveform, so it gives you a visual representation of what's actually going on in that audio strip. I find it's very useful to do that because now I know, hey look, here's where the audio is starting. I can go ahead and cut it right about here and get rid of all that. After drawing the waveform, you can adjust the audio. So usually I'll listen to the clip and decide, okay, it's a little low, it's a little high, and you can adjust the volume here by clicking or dragging through the volume. You can also select it and type in whatever you want. Pitch, usually you won't really have to mess with pitch unless it's off, and pitch would be off if something sounds really high or something sounds really low and you want to go ahead and change that. The pan is if you're using stereo, and that means that you're going to make sounds left or right. So maybe you could have an audio track that plays just in the left side or the right side, or you want it to go from left to right to give it sort of the stereo effect. You'll do that here either by inputting -1 or just 1, and then any number in between. The trims, you can do a hard trim or a soft trim. Remember the difference between a hard and a soft trim is a hard will get rid of any of the information that you cut from it. You can't bring that back. A soft trim you can bring back. It's still stored there. It's just getting it's just sort of like masking it so you don't see it. And modifiers and custom properties, you really won't need to use that much, especially if you're just working with the basic audio. So before we do anything else, and if all I'm doing is working with audio especially, I like to come here to this window and set up the graph editor, because this will allow you to sort of see what's going on with your audio as you're cutting and moving and editing and doing all that stuff. So let's go ahead and cut the front off. I'll make sure the strip is selected by right clicking, then I'll shift K to put a hard cut in, select the piece that just got cut, press delete, and go ahead and delete that. Reselect the strip, press G to move it. I'll move it over to 1, left click to lock it in place. We'll go ahead and preview the strip real quick. So this audio just comes right in. There's no fade, there's nothing like that. Sometimes you might want to fade your audio in. So if I was going to do that, I could put my cursor anywhere and I'll put it right about here. I'll come to sound. I'll go ahead and set my volume to 0, and as I hold my mouse over this, I will press I. So you notice that it changed the color right here, and it put a keyframe in the graph editor. So now the audio is going to be set to 0 on this whole track. I'll bring my cursor to about right here. I'll come back to the volume. I'll raise it back to 1 by typing it in and pressing enter. I'll hover over the volume and I'll press I again. Now that's put a new keyframe in, and notice how this line jumped up. This is what's happening with your volume. It's going from 0 to 1. Notice the numbers here is 0 and 2 is the next one up, and 1's right in the middle. You can, if you wanted to, adjust these by right clicking and dragging it around. So if you wanted more of a sharp curve, or if you just wanted a nice even curve, you can mess with that. I'm going to Control Z. Now let's go ahead and preview that. Now that isn't a great fade in because it's cutting off half of my audio, but that's what you could do if you had music or songs or something like that. If you wanted to fade back out, the process is pretty simple too. You could come here, make sure your volume's set where it needs to be, which is at 1. Hover over, press I. It's going to add in another keyframe. You see it there. Move to where you want your audio to be ending. Set the volume to 0. Hover over, press I again. And now we have our audio track that's going to be set up so it should fade out. So now that we sort of faded in and faded out there, we'll add another strip in. So I'll bring this strip in. I'll right click the video portion, press delete to get rid of it. Right click that to draw the waveform. Right click, press G. So if you lay another audio track above your audio track, they're just going to play together. So that's where the fades come in and makes it really nice. So if we see here on this strip, I've faded out right here. So we can go to this top strip and we can also do a fade on that to fade it in. We're looking at frame about 160. So we'll come here to the first frame on this strip. We'll go ahead and set it to 0. Hover over, press I. Go to frame 160. Bring it back up to 1 by typing in 1. Press enter. Hover over, press I. And now that's brought this track up. So one should be fading in and the other one should be fading out. So let's play it and see if that works. And that's how you're going to fade 2 audio tracks. It's a little tedious in Blender to do that. However, you do have plenty of control, especially with the graph editor here, because I can make these fades as long, as short, as steep as I want them. And you can add as many in as you need to. And that does it for Blender tutorial number 7, audio. Please join us for tutorial number 8, text. Thanks for watching.